Hello, you're watching Elevate with Emily. I see a lot of kids and I do play therapy with them. And a lot of parents are like, okay, play therapy, but what actually is that? How's that different than actual playing with my kid? Am I just paying you to play with my child? In today's video, I want to share with you what play therapy is, what I wish I knew about it, and also how parents can apply some principles at home with their kids to be able to facilitate some of these positive outcomes that we see from play therapy. To begin with, what is play therapy and why would you need that? Well, some kids have trouble adjusting more so than others. In some areas of their lives, they might need a little more support adjusting to something, whether that's going to school, a new sibling, a divorce, remarriage, all of those different life events. And sometimes they need less support. But in cases where children do need a little bit more support, it's hard for them to be able to talk about what's going on. Oftentimes, our children are experiencing emotions for the first time, right? The very first time that they feel jealous, the very first time that they feel nervous, scared. Play therapy is an outlet for them. Just as an adult comes into therapy and sits on one of these couches back here and talks with a therapist and lets it all out, right? They talk about what is bothering them, they explore, and the therapist is tuned in, listening, reflecting, really showing that they understand. And as that person is able to let out what's going on inside of them to a trusted, safe person who really genuinely understands without judgment, they really do experience this release and this relief of emotions. That's the same experience that a child will have coming into play. However, their primary language is play. They act out their feelings because they don't have the words or the comprehension to tell you exactly what's going on. And so in playing, they use the toys or the tools there to act out, to tactilely, with their senses, process and vent out what's going on inside of them. And it's beneficial when you have an adult there who is watching, who's tuning in and really seeking to understand their emotions and their experience. And as that adult witnesses that child feeling and acting out those emotions and feels it and experiences it with them, that's the same release or the same venting that an adult gets, right? And so the play is so crucial, and that needs to happen in a very specific environment. First of all, this environment needs to be a safe place so that you can give the child pretty much full reins. And the toys that are in the playroom, they're not just random, they're not just collected randomly, whatever was free on the side of the road. They're chosen with purpose and with intent, and they fall into three categories typically. The first one is creative expression. You can express yourself without failing. There's no wrong way to do this, and that includes crayons, paint, sand, water, anything like that, any medium where you can't fail at doing it, right? It's not like a ring toss and you're throwing it and you keep missing and you're like, and you just get more and more frustrated. There's no comparison, there's no right or wrong way to do it. So you're just able to explore and create, and whatever is you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, you can kind of just mess around with it, whether it's water, whether it's sand. And these typically get messy. If you are taking your child to play therapy, consider an old play outfit, something that if it did get paint or sand on it, that it wouldn't really matter. The second category of toys are real life toys. These are toys that these toys might be a family of dolls, a doll house, little animal figurines, cars, puppets, food items, or costumes. And these are the items that allow them to explore without the need to verbalize. They can act out what went on with their family members. They can act out their dog dying. They can act out zooming down the freeway and feeling scared, right? Like they can use those tools to recreate real life things that they've experienced. Or they might put on the doctor costume and act out going to the doctor. They might be drawn to the purse and the phone and pretend to be an adult and boss around. These real life toys allow them to experience real life situations, but in a safe environment. The third type of toy are aggression toys, and these might be punching bags, fake guns, rubber knives, a dart gun, a toy soldier, things like that they can really get out their aggression in a safe way. And in a playroom, we do set rules, we do have some boundaries, but they're very minimum. Don't purposely harm yourself or others, and don't purposely break any toys. and you set those limits for safety, but then they're free to do what they want. There's no time limit on how long they can play with a certain toy. There's no expectation. They can move from thing to thing to thing as quickly or as slowly as they want. They can do what they want, and you're not there to tell them what to do, how to do it, what to play, who to play with. And as a parent, that can be really hard for, your kid not to want to play with you, but your role is so crucial. Just as in the therapy room, it's like you're wearing a hat to observe and reflect and validate. You're seeing what they're doing. You're speaking out loud, wow, you're playing with this, or I see that you did this. And so you're helping reflect back their actions, which is further helping them to process what's going on. Again, play therapy is going to be a lot different than, parents doing play therapy. There's so many differences between a therapist who's, a trained specialist, knows specific themes or things to look for, and is a stranger, is more emotionally removed, not as emotionally attached. Not that we're not attached to children, but right, we don't have the same triggers or the same traumas or past memories or worries. Like if the kid is saying the colors wrong or doing something wrong, it's not our child. We're more able to just let them be free and explore. It's just easier for us than for parents who have that mantle of responsibility. So it is going to be very different. However, that doesn't mean that the play therapy principles aren't still helpful for parents to adopt and implement. And it is going to be beneficial to the child. And if they need more support in that area of their life, then on top of that, they can go see a play therapist as well. But let's start with play therapy at home. Let's start with, what is that role that the parent takes on? What does that look like? And the first thing is, as a parent at home, you do juggle so many hats. You have to enforce boundaries, teach safety, teach numbers, like words. You are a teacher, you're an educator, you're an enforcer. You have so many different hats. And so during play therapy, it's helpful for you to just visualize putting on a different hat, putting on a hat of an observer. And maybe it's in a room or a spot of the house that's different than the usual play area, to kind of help signify to them that in this specific place, you have control. In this specific area, you have control. Don't break anything, don't hurt me or yourself, but let's just play. And then you just watch and you see what they're drawn to. And in this specific playroom, try to have those specific toys, not just random Barbies and whatever, like Frozen characters, but try to have those 3 categories: creative expression toys, real life toys, and aggression toys. And then just kind of sit back and watch them. And that is so important. You might feel like, if I'm not talking with them, talking at them, playing with them, then why am I here? This isn't necessary. They can just go play on their own. But in fact, it is so crucial for them to have an adult just in the room, present, watching them, attuning to them, feeling with them, accepting them. At that age, an attachment figure is so crucial. And so even if you're just sitting there the whole time watching them, that is absolutely crucial. So what it looks like is you can just walk into the room and say, let's do a little bit of special playtime with mommy. And that can be your mental note code word for play therapy with mom or whatever. But with them, just let's have special playtime with mommy. Let's go to our special spot with our special toys and play. And then and they don't even need prompting. Most of the time, they'll just go in there and start doing whatever. And it's such a good exercise of control for us to not want to correct or lead or guide, to just do what they want to do. And if they want to include you in the play, then being relaxed and, okay, I'll go along with it, as long as it's not hurting me, right? And giving them that space so that if they do need to work through control issues, if they do need to boss you around for a bit to really vent out times where they felt like they didn't have control, whether that was at school or another parent's house or grandparent's house, where they felt like they were being bossed around or they didn't feel in control, and they need that hour to just boss and be able to work through and process what that felt like, then you're there as a little minion getting bossed around, right? Or if they take the hammer or the rubber knife and they're just, being aggressive, then they need someone to help feel and witness that aggression, to help them know that it's okay to have that feeling and that there are appropriate ways to let it out. And so you're not setting boundaries like, oh, don't stab the doll with the knife, which obviously that's not a good thing. But in the play session, that's them getting out and exploring and being free to be themselves, to be the darkest version of themselves as well as the best version of themselves. They just need that freedom to be able to explore who they are. And so everything they do is acceptable without judgment because they're exploring. And you have to have faith in them that they are prone to excellence, that kids are born to thrive, and that as they have the room and the space to grow and experience, they're going to be drawn towards the good. They just need that outlet to get out the bad so that they can understand, comprehend, continue to grow and flourish, and not be held back or bottle in all of those negative emotions. And even if they never directly interact with you, but just you sitting there and verbalizing, I see that you're playing with the doll. You're holding the baby so tightly. Just making occasional comments like that. Or if they open a lid, just saying, wow, I see that you opened that, right? Acknowledging that they did something. Not necessarily like, wow, you're so strong, you're so amazing. Not just praise, but validation of noticing what they have done, and not assigning a meaning to it, positive or negative, just you did this. And by these simple things, you're sending them so many positive messages that they do have power and control in their life, that their actions do have consequences, that they can be independent and grow and flourish, that they can be creative, that they have many gifts or talents that they discovered on their own. They didn't have to be told, but they got to figure it out themselves. That they have someone who is a safe person to be all parts of themselves with. They don't have to hide any part of themselves, that all of them is acceptable. After the play session, when we're bringing out children back to the lobby, parents might want to say certain things. They might see a painting the child did and be like, wow, I love this painting so much. You did so good. We don't want that, because then the child might feel pressure to create more paintings for the parent. So the next time they come in, they're not free to just do whatever they want, because now they have that idea of like, oh, my mom or dad really likes when I paint, and so I'm going to paint for them. What should I paint for them, right? And then they're not able to just do whatever they need to do to get out their feelings. And so instead, if they bring out a painting, you can just tell them what you see. And it's just as validating, right? You don't have to be like, wow, this is so great. You did such a good job. You're so talented. It can just be, I see you painted a picture. I see that it has a lot of yellow here. You added some blue right there. Okay, thank you for sharing. So then you're acknowledging, you're seeing, you're validating in that way, but it's not putting any pressure of like, oh, I have to paint. Because then it can be whatever they bring out, whatever they do, you're noticing and you're acknowledging it and accepting it. The other thing that parents will want to do is ask, did you have fun? However, play therapy is not supposed to be fun, right? Sometimes it is fun. Sometimes the kids have a lot of fun. Sometimes they're working through really hard emotions that aren't fun to feel or experience, but are so important to act out and feel and vent and let out, right? Whether or not the session was fun doesn't matter. And we also don't want to create that pressure on them that they're supposed to have fun, or that if they didn't have fun, then they failed or they shouldn't come back. Not asking those questions, just saying, welcome back. It's good to see you again. As a way to greet them after a play session. And finally, parents will be tempted to ask their kid what they did. And when they ask what the child did, the child's probably just gonna be like, I played. I'm not really gonna know or recognize the significance of what went on. They can process and experience and feel something meaningful and not even consciously be aware of it in the moment. When you ask them what they did or what happened, then again, it's putting a little bit of pressure on them, like, oh no, like, is there a wrong way to do stuff? Or am I going to get in trouble? Or I don't really know how to explain what I did. And honestly, their play session is just as confidential as an adult session, right? When you come in and you talk to a therapist about your feelings and thoughts, sometimes you're just processing as you're talking. You don't even know if you mean it, or you don't even know how you're feeling. And so it's safe because you know you're not going to be judged, and you can let it out, those worst parts of yourself, so to speak. And you don't ever want your own parents or your kids or your boss or anyone else to know what you talked about or what went on. And so it's the same with the child. They have that confidentiality. What they did in that playroom was confidential. They're not held accountable to a boss, to a parent, to a teacher, to anyone else. They have that freedom to truly be themselves. I hope you found this video helpful. I know it's a lot, and honestly, play therapy sometimes just looks so simple and yet can be so complex. When you're just looking at it happen, you're like, oh yeah, it's so easy. You're just playing with a child, like you're doing the bare minimum, like there's not much going on. But it can be tricky to make sure you're saying the right things or just being available. Like, how hard is it to just focus for an hour on a child playing, right? How many times is your mind wandering about the 50 billion things you got to do, or notifications on your phone, right? That in and of itself is so exhausting and hard to do. But it's so rewarding, and it's what the kids need to help get that extra support and be able to express those emotions non-verbally. Comment below your main takeaway from this video, as well as any other questions you have, and I will see you in future videos.